The stars shone brightly against the black canvas of space as the UNS Vanguard made its routine patrol near Neptune. Commander Elaine Murphy stood on the bridge, her blue eyes scanning the monitors that lined the wall. She had been in space for 15 years, but the sight of distant planets and stars still filled her with wonder. "Commander, we're picking up something strange near the outer rings," said Officer Ryan Kelly, his fingers moving quickly across the control panel. "Energy readings unlike anything we've seen before." Elaine walked over to his station. "Show me." The screen displayed a swirling mass of blue energy growing larger by the second. Elaine had never seen anything like it, and in the year 2157, humanity thought they had seen everything space had to offer. "All stations on alert," she ordered. "But maintain distance. We don't know what we're dealing with." The crew watched in silence as the energy swirl expanded, forming what looked like a tunnel in space. Then, without warning, a massive ship emerged. It moved slowly, trailing debris and what looked like smoke, if smoke could exist in the vacuum of space. "It's damaged," Elaine said quietly, "and it's not one of ours." For 20 years, humans had lived on Mars and Europa. They had built bases, homes, and new lives beyond Earth. But in all that time, they had never encountered anyone else. Until now. "They're broadcasting something," said Communications Officer Lisa Carter. "Not radio, not any frequency we typically use. But there's definitely a pattern." Elaine took a deep breath. First contact. This was what every space explorer dreamed of, yet feared at the same time. "Route it through our translation computers. Let's see if we can find a common language." Hours passed as the Vanguard maintained position near the alien vessel. Scientists and linguists from Earth joined via video link, working frantically to establish communication. Finally, a breakthrough came. "We have something," Lisa announced. "It's rough, but we're getting words." The main screen flickered, and an image appeared. The being looked almost human. 2 arms, 2 legs, a head. But its skin had a faint purple tint and its eyes were larger with no visible pupils. "I am Theron, ambassador of the Ardelian people." The translation came through in a flat, computerized voice. "We come seeking refuge. The Zenith Dominion pursues us." Elaine stepped forward. "I am Commander Elaine Murphy of Earth." "What is this Dominion you speak of?" Theron's expression changed to something Elaine interpreted as grim. "They are the darkness that sweeps across the stars. For centuries they have conquered and enslaved. Our world is now ash and memory. We are the few who escaped." The words sent a chill down Elaine's spine. She ordered a secure channel opened to Earth Command. 2 days later, Elaine found herself in a hastily prepared meeting room on the International Space Station. Around the table sat leaders from every major nation on Earth, connected by the greatest threat humanity had ever faced. "The Ardelians have provided star charts," explained General Frank Harrison, displaying a holographic map of the Milky Way. "The red areas show Zenith control. They've conquered nearly a third of our galaxy." "And now they know we exist?" asked the Chinese representative. "Not yet," Theron answered. He had been brought to the station along with a small group of his people. "But they will find you soon. The wormhole we created leaves traces they can follow." "Then we hide," suggested someone. "They don't know exactly where we are." Elaine shook her head. "Hiding only delays the inevitable. If what Ambassador Theron says is true, the Dominion won't stop until they've claimed everything." "Commander, Murphy is right," said President Sophia Reyes. "We prepare to defend ourselves." While politicians argued on the space station, Dr. Alan Frost worked in his underground lab in Nevada. 10 years earlier, a strange object had been found buried in Martian soil. No one knew what it was or how it worked, but Alan had dedicated his life to finding out. The phone on his desk rang. Few people had this number. "Frost," he answered. "Doctor, this is President Reyes. We need you at the Johnson Space Center immediately. Bring everything you have on the Mars artifact." 12 hours later, Alan stood in a secure room with the President and Ambassador Theron. The artifact sat on the table between them. "It's Ardelian," Theron said simply, touching the smooth surface. Lights flickered across it in response. A navigation core from one of our scout ships, lost centuries ago. Alan could hardly believe it. We've been trying to understand this technology for a decade. And how far have you come? Theron asked. Alan explained the propulsion system he had developed based on the artifact, as well as the energy weapons that were still in testing. Theron looked impressed. In just 10 years, your people learn quickly. He turned to the president. This gives us hope. Perhaps together, we can stand against what comes. Over the next weeks, humanity prepared. The newly formed United Earth Defense Coalition brought together military forces from around the world. Commander Murphy was appointed military liaison to the Ardelian refugees, working closely with Theron to understand what they would face. At the Nevada facility, now expanded and bustling with activity, Alan worked day and night with a team of human and Ardelian scientists. They made breakthroughs that would have taken decades under normal circumstances. The adaptation rate of your technology is remarkable, said Vela, an Ardelian engineer. We've never seen a species integrate new concepts so quickly. Alan smiled tiredly, running his hand through his disheveled brown hair. Necessity is the mother of invention, and right now, we need everything we can get. 6 patrol ships were quickly fitted with the new propulsion systems. Weapons platforms around Earth and Mars were upgraded with modified Ardelian designs. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Elaine found herself on the bridge of the UNS Vanguard once again, but this time she wasn't alone. Ardelian crew members worked alongside humans, teaching them about the stars beyond their system and the enemies they would soon face. Commander? Officer Kelly called out. Multiple energy signatures detected, similar to the wormhole from before, but larger. Much larger. Elaine's heart raced, but her voice remained calm. Location? Just beyond Jupiter's orbit. 12 points forming. She turned to Theron, who stood beside her. His face showed what she already knew. They're here, he said softly. Elaine opened a channel to Earth. This is Commander Murphy. First wave of Zenith forces entering the system. Repeat, Zenith forces have arrived. As the message went out, she gave orders to her crew. Battle stations. All ships form defensive position according to Protocol Delta. The small fleet of Earth vessels moved into formation, joined by the few remaining Ardelian ships. On screens throughout the solar system, humans watched as massive black vessels emerged from swirling portals of energy. Humanity had hoped for more time, but time had run out. The fight for survival was about to begin, and the galaxy would soon learn what humans were capable of when pushed to the edge. Elaine took a deep breath and spoke words that would be remembered in history books for centuries to come. This is our home, and we will defend it. 6 months after the Zenith forces entered the solar system, Earth had changed more than it had in the last century. The skies above every major city now held the silhouettes of defense platforms. Factories that once made cars and computers now produced ship parts and weapons. Admiral Gregory Pearson stood on the bridge of the UNS Defiant, Earth's new flagship. At 52, with gray starting to show in his black hair, Greg had never expected to command humanity's defense against alien invaders. Yet here he was, looking at holographic displays showing the positions of Earth ships around Mars. Status. Report, he ordered. All squadrons in position, Admiral, replied his second-in-command, Captain Olivia Wright. Zenith fleet approaching Mars colony on predicted course. Greg nodded. The first battles had not gone well for Earth. The Zenith ships were bigger, faster, and had weapons that cut through Earth's defenses like paper. But humans learned quickly. Is Lieutenant Wells ready? He asked. Yes, sir. Stealth Squadron is in position. The Zenith believed Mars colony to be weakly defended. They didn't know about the new stealth fighters hiding in the orbit of Phobos, one of Mars's small moons. They didn't know about Lieutenant Samantha Wells. Sam checked her fighter's systems one last time. The small black ship was nearly invisible against the darkness of space, thanks to the technology Dr. Frost had developed by studying the Zenith's own detection systems. "Stealth Squadron, this is Lieutenant Wells," she said into her comm. "Remember the plan. We wait until they commit to the attack run on the colony, then we hit their engines from behind." "What if they change course?" asked one of her pilots. Sam smiled inside her helmet. "They won't. The Zenith never change plans mid-battle. That's why we're going to win." The Ardelians had explained that the Zenith military followed rigid protocols in everything they did. Once a battle plan was set, they executed it exactly as planned, regardless of changing circumstances. It was their greatest weakness. The massive Zenith ships moved toward Mars in perfect formation. Their black hulls absorbed the sunlight, making them look like moving shadows against the red planet. "They're starting their attack run," reported Sam's tactical officer. 3 minutes until they're in optimal position." Sam took a deep breath. "All fighters, power up weapons but keep stealth systems engaged until my mark." The Zenith ships opened fire on the small defensive fleet protecting Mars. The Earth ships took damage but held position, putting up just enough resistance to make the Zenith commanders believe everything was going according to their plans. "Now," Sam ordered when the enemy ships reached the perfect position. 12 stealth fighters disengaged their cloaking systems and fired simultaneously at the engines of the 3 largest Zenith ships. The targeted points had been identified by Ardelian engineers as structural weaknesses. The Zenith ships shuddered as explosions rippled across their engine sections. 2 of them began to drift, their propulsion systems failing. The third spun wildly, its navigation compromised. "Second wave, hit the command sections," Sam ordered. Another group of fighters appeared from behind Deimos, Mars's other moon, targeting the communication arrays of the smaller Zenith vessels. On the UNS Defiant, Admiral Pearson watched as the perfectly ordered Zenith formation fell into chaos. "Now, Captain Wright, bring in our main force." The Earth fleet moved in, targeting the confused and damaged enemy ships. For the first time since the war began, the Zenith were retreating. Back on Earth, in a crowded lab filled with blinking equipment, Ethan Rodriguez made an accidental discovery that would change the course of the war. The 30-year-old engineer had been testing standard Earth communications equipment alongside captured Zenith technology. "Wait, what just happened?" he asked, staring at his screens. Every time he activated the old-style radio transmitter, the Zenith targeting system went haywire. Ethan worked through the night, testing and retesting his discovery. By morning, he was on a video call with military command. "It's the frequency modulation," he explained excitedly to the officers and scientists on the screen. "Our basic radio waves create interference patterns that their targeting systems can't compensate for. It's like static on an old TV." Dr. Alan Frost, who was part of the call, immediately understood the implications. "We could create devices that actively disrupt their weapons lock." Within weeks, every Earth ship and defense platform was equipped with what the crews affectionately called noise boxes. When activated, these devices made it nearly impossible for Zenith weapons to get a clean lock on their targets. Admiral Pearson used this advantage to develop a new strategy. Earth ships would no longer try to match the Zenith in direct combat. Instead, they would use Jupiter's many moons as hiding places, emerging to strike quickly before disappearing again. "We can't win by fighting their way," he explained to his captains. "So we'll fight our way." The Zenith commanders couldn't understand what was happening. Their reports back to their superiors spoke of humans as unpredictable and chaotic. They had never faced an enemy that changed tactics in the middle of battle, that didn't follow established rules of engagement. 6 more months passed. Word of the human resistance spread through nearby star systems. Species that had been conquered by the Zenith for generations watched with growing hope as the small, seemingly primitive Earth forces continued to survive against one of the galaxy's most powerful empires. The turning point came when Admiral Pearson approved a daring plan. The UNS Defiant, equipped with Dr. Frost's experimental jump drive based on Ardelian technology, would attempt to capture an intact Zenith battle cruiser. "It's too risky," argued Captain Wright as they finalized the details. "We barely understand how their ships work." "Which is exactly why we need one," replied the Admiral. "We've been fighting blind. It's time to see what we're really up against." With Ardelian navigation experts on board, The Defiant jumped into a region of space the Zenith used to repair and resupply their ships. They found a lone battlecruiser undergoing maintenance, its systems partially powered down. The Earthship closed in quickly, deploying specialized boarding teams equipped with the best weapons Dr. Frost could provide. The Zenith crew, surprised by the sudden appearance of an enemy vessel where none should be able to reach, were overwhelmed before they could mount an effective defense. 2 hours later, Admiral Pearson walked through the captured Zenith ship. Its corridors were larger than human standards, the controls designed for beings slightly taller than the average person. But it was the ship's database that provided the most valuable prize. "They've been analyzing us," said the Ardelian translator, helping to decode the Zenith records. "Look at this report to their high command." On the screen appeared an assessment of human military capabilities. The final line stood out clearly even through the rough translation. "Human unpredictability represents highest threat level. Their adaptability defies strategic prediction models." The Zenith feared them, not for their technology or their numbers, but for their ability to change, to adapt, to think in ways the highly regimented Zenith military couldn't understand. As Admiral Pearson prepared to have the captured ship towed back to Earth for further study, a transmission came through on a frequency the Ardelians recognized. "This is the Galactic Concord," said a voice speaking through an Ardelian translation program. "We have been watching your resistance against the Dominion. We wish to meet with representatives of Earth." Admiral Pearson looked at the Ardelian navigator beside him, who nodded in confirmation. "The Concord is real," the navigator said. "A loose alliance of species who fight against Zenith rule. They have been waiting for someone like you." As the message continued, explaining coordinates for a meeting, Admiral Pearson realized that humanity was no longer fighting alone. The galaxy was watching, and Earth's stand against the Zenith had ignited something powerful. Hope. The UNS Intrepid cut through the darkness of space, its sleek hull a mix of human and alien technology. 2 years had passed since Earth first joined the fight against the Zenith Dominion, and much had changed. Humanity had moved beyond their solar system, establishing bases in nearby star systems and forming deep alliances with other species. Commander Elaine Murphy stood on the bridge of the Intrepid, watching the stars streak by. At her side was Krell, an Ardelian navigation officer, and on her other side stood Vorex, a tall reptilian being from a species called the Noth. "Approaching target coordinates," Krell announced. "Dropping out of jump in 3, 2, 1. The view outside changed from streaking stars to a field of debris floating around a small moon. This had once been a Zenith outpost until the Intrepid's last visit. "No Zenith signals detected," reported Lieutenant Ben Martinez from the tactical station. "Looks like they haven't returned yet." Elaine nodded. "Good. Begin recovery operations. I want those data cores salvaged quickly." The Intrepid had become famous for its raids deep into Zenith territory, so much so that Zenith commanders had given Elaine a nickname, the Ghost. Her ship would appear, strike hard, and vanish before the enemy could mount an effective response. While the Intrepid conducted operations on the front lines, back at Earth, diplomatic efforts were expanding. Dr. Nina Ortiz had emerged as humanity's voice in the Galactic Concord. The 40-year-old diplomat had a gift for understanding alien cultures and finding common ground. In a massive space station orbiting a neutral world, Nina sat at a round table with representatives from 12 different species. The chamber was specially designed to accommodate beings who breathed different atmospheres and lived in different gravity conditions. "The problem," Nina explained, her voice firm but friendly, "is that we've all been playing defense for too long. The Zenith keep pushing and we keep retreating. We need to change the pattern." A blue-skinned being with 4 arms gestured in agreement. "But the Dominion has superior numbers and technology. How do we overcome this advantage?" Nina smiled. "By attacking where they don't expect it, not their ships or outposts, but their command structure." The representatives murmured among themselves. No one had ever seriously considered taking the fight directly to Zenith leadership. It seemed impossible. "The Zenith have ruled through fear for centuries," Nina continued. "But fear works both ways. Commander Murphy's raids have already shown that they can be hurt, can be surprised. Imagine their reaction if we struck at the heart of their command. Back on Earth, Ethan Rodriguez led a team working around the clock in a facility deep under the Rocky Mountains. The room was filled with captured Zenith technology and dozens of screens displaying code and signal patterns. "I've got it!" he shouted, suddenly jumping up from his chair. The pattern in their command signals. His team gathered around his screen as he explained his discovery. Zenith communications aren't just messages, they're instructions. Their ships don't just receive orders. They're programmed to follow them exactly. "Like robots?" asked one of his colleagues. "Not exactly. More like they have no authority to think for themselves. Everything comes from the top down. If we can disrupt that chain of command, they wouldn't know what to do," finished another scientist, her eyes wide with understanding. Ethan nodded excitedly. Exactly. They'd be paralyzed. The discovery was immediately reported to Admiral Pearson, who now commanded the combined Earth Defense Fleet from his new flagship, a massive vessel named UNS Defender. The Admiral called an emergency meeting of his top officers and allies. Commander Murphy joined via secure transmission from the Intrepid, along with Dr. Ortiz from the Concord station. "Rodriguez's discovery confirms what we've suspected," Pearson explained. "The Zenith military is entirely dependent on orders from above. Individual ship commanders have almost no authority to make decisions in battle, which explains why they struggle against our tactics," added Commander Murphy. "We encourage initiative at all levels." "Exactly," said the Admiral. "And now we have a plan to use this weakness against them." He outlined Operation Thunderstrike, the most ambitious campaign yet attempted against the Dominion. While the main fleet engaged Zenith forces in several systems as a distraction, a small team led by Commander Murphy would penetrate deep behind enemy lines to strike at a major Zenith command hub. "This is more than a raid," he explained. "If we can destroy or disable this hub, we could paralyze Zenith operations across an entire sector." 2 weeks later, the operation began. The main fleet, joined by ships from every Concord species, launched coordinated attacks against Zenith outposts in 6 different systems. The enemy responded predictably, dispatching fleets to counter each threat. Meanwhile, the Intrepid, along with 3 smaller ships, jumped to a position far from the fighting, near a massive space station orbiting a red giant star. This was the Zenith command hub that controlled operations in nearly a quarter of their territory. "Stealth systems engaged," reported Lieutenant Martinez. "We're approaching undetected, but we won't stay hidden once we're in weapons range." Elaine studied the station on her view screen. It was enormous, nearly 5 miles across, with hundreds of Zenith ships docked around its perimeter. "We don't need to get close," she said. "Launch the infiltration team." From the Intrepid's bay, a small, specially designed craft detached and moved toward the station. Inside were 6 operatives, 3 humans, 2 Ardelians, and a Noth warrior, all trained in covert operations. Their mission was to plant devices developed by Rodriguez's team at key points throughout the station. These devices would tap into the station's communication systems and broadcast contradictory commands to all connected Zenith ships. "Infiltration team has reached the station," Martinez reported. "They've gained entry through a maintenance port." Now came the hardest part, waiting. The team had 6 hours to complete their mission before the Intrepid would need to move to extraction position. 5 hours passed with no word. Then, just as Elaine was considering moving closer to the station, Martinez looked up from his console with a grin. "They've done it. All devices are in place and activated." Around the station, confusion spread like a virus. Docked ships received conflicting orders. Some began to undock only to stop halfway. Others powered up weapons systems but didn't fire. Communication channels became flooded with requests for clarification that went unanswered. "Extraction team is returning to their craft," reported Martinez. "Wait, we have a problem. Zenith security forces have detected them." Elaine made a quick decision. "Move us in. We'll create a distraction." The Intrepid dropped its stealth field and accelerated toward the station, weapons firing. 2 Zenith cruisers moved to intercept, but their responses were sluggish, uncoordinated. They're not receiving proper battle orders, Vorex observed, his reptilian face showing what might have been a smile. The infiltration team's craft launched from the station, racing toward the Intrepid as explosions began to bloom throughout the command hub. The devices hadn't just disrupted communications, they had overloaded critical systems. Team is aboard, Martinez reported. All accounted for. Then let's get out of here, Elaine ordered. As the Intrepid jumped away, the Zenith command station erupted in a series of massive explosions, far larger than anyone had expected. The destruction would be visible across light years of space. In the following days, reports flooded in from across the front lines. Zenith ships were withdrawing from battles, returning to their core territories. Some weren't responding to any commands at all, drifting aimlessly in space. For the first time in centuries, the Dominion had suffered a major strategic defeat. News traveled quickly through the galaxy, inspiring hope on occupied worlds and even rebellion on some. At Earth, Admiral Pearson received the reports with cautious optimism. "We've hurt them," he told his officers. "But the Zenith have ruled for too long to give up after one defeat." His words proved prophetic. Just days later, long-range sensors detected unusual activity in Zenith space. Their ships were gathering, forming the largest fleet anyone had ever seen. "They're coming for Earth," Admiral Pearson said grimly as he studied the reports. "This time, they're sending everything they have." On a secure channel, he contacted Commander Murphy. "Elaine, get the Intrepid back here. The final battle is coming, and we'll need every ship we've got." The stars themselves seemed to dim as the massive Zenith Armada moved through space. At its center was the Dominion's Fist, a ship so large it was more like a moving city than a vessel. Standing on its command deck was Vexthor, the elite executor, sent by the Council of Seven to end the human threat once and for all. "How much longer until we reach the Earth system?" Vexthor demanded. His voice was cold, his 4 eyes narrowed with anger. "3 days, Executor," replied the ship's commander, bowing low. "Our scouts report that they are preparing defenses." "It will not matter," Vexthor said. "The Council is tired of these humans and their chaos. This ends now." The Zenith counterattack had been swift and brutal. System after system fell as they cut a direct path toward Earth. The Concord fleet tried to slow them down, but they were overwhelmed by the sheer number of enemy ships. The worst loss came at the Battle of Proxima Centauri, where the UNS Defender faced 3 Zenith battlecruisers alone, while evacuating colonists. Admiral Pearson's flagship fought bravely, but in the end, the great ship broke apart under enemy fire. Escape pods launched from the dying vessel, carrying the Admiral and many of his crew to safety, but the loss of the Defender was a heavy blow to morale. Back on Earth, in every major city, people watched the sky with fear. Space battles could sometimes be seen as flashes of light in the night sky as Earth's outer defenses engaged the first wave of Zenith ships. In the facility under the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Alan Frost worked with a grim determination. He hadn't slept in 3 days, surviving on coffee and the knowledge that if he failed, humanity might not survive. "Dr. Frost?" a voice called from the doorway. He looked up to see Ethan Rodriguez standing there with several scientists from different alien species. "Is it ready?" Frost asked. Rodriguez nodded. "We finished the final calibrations. The weapon works, in theory." Frost stood and followed the group to a large chamber where a device sat on a pedestal. It didn't look impressive, just a metal cylinder with pulsing blue lights, but it represented humanity's best hope. "The technology is based on the original Ardelian artifact," explained one of the alien scientists, "but modified using principles from a dozen different species." "And it will work?" asked Frost. "It will create a localized disruption in space-time," Rodriguez said. "Anything caught in its range will experience a complete systems failure, but what? It has to be deployed directly against the Zenith flagship. There's no way to remote detonate it." Frost sighed. "So we need a delivery system. We need a suicide mission," Rodriguez said quietly. Admiral Pearson, his arm in a sling from injuries sustained during the Defender's destruction, stood before the assembled captains of Earth's remaining fleet. Maps and tactical displays covered the walls of the underground command center. "The Zenith will reach Earth in 24 hours, he said. "Our outer defenses have slowed them, but they can't stop them. We need to prepare for the final battle." "Sir," asked one of the captains, "do we have any updates on the weapon Dr. Frost is developing?" "It's ready," the admiral replied, "but it requires direct deployment against their flagship." The room fell silent as everyone understood the implications. "I'll do it," said a voice from the back. Commander Elaine Murphy stepped forward. "The Intrepid has the best chance of getting close enough." Admiral Pearson looked at her with mixed pride and sadness. "The Intrepid is our most advanced ship. We'll need it for the defense." "With all due respect, sir, if this weapon works, you won't need to defend anything." Before the admiral could respond, an alert sounded. A young officer rushed into the room. "Sir, multiple ships dropping out of jump near Saturn. But they're not Zenith. They're everything else." The view screen switched to show hundreds of ships of different designs and sizes entering the solar system. At their head was a vessel bearing the symbol of the Galactic Concorde. "This is Ambassador Ortiz," came Nina's voice over the comm. "Earth does not stand alone today. Every species that has suffered under Zenith rule sends ships to fight by your side." The mood in the command center shifted from grim determination to cautious hope. But Admiral Pearson knew that even with these reinforcements, they were still outmatched by the Zenith Armada. "The plan doesn't change," he said firmly. "We need to get that weapon to their flagship." 12 hours later, Earth's defense fleet, now joined by ships from across the galaxy, formed a line between the planet and the approaching Zenith forces. Admiral Pearson had taken command of a cruiser named UNS Victory, coordinating the defense. The Intrepid, modified with experimental cloaking technology and carrying Dr. Frost's weapon, hovered at the edge of the formation. On its bridge, Commander Murphy addressed her crew. "This mission is volunteer only," she said, looking at each face in turn. "Anyone who wishes to leave has my permission to take an escape pod now." No one moved. "Very well," she said with a small smile. "Let's make history." As the Zenith fleet appeared, their ships darkening the space around Earth like a storm cloud, the battle began. The defense fleet met them head-on, every ship fighting with desperate courage. The Intrepid slipped away from the main battle, its cloaking technology hiding it from Zenith sensors. It circled wide, approaching the massive Dominion's fist from behind. "Cloaking system at 60%, reported Lieutenant Martinez. "It's starting to fail under the strain. Just get us close enough," Elaine ordered. In the engine room, Ethan Rodriguez worked frantically to keep the ship's systems functioning. He hadn't planned to be here. He was an engineer, not a soldier. But when he heard about the mission, he had volunteered to join the crew. No one knew the weapon better than he did. "We're being scanned," Martinez warned. "They've detected us." Zenith fighters turned from the main battle, moving to intercept the Intrepid. The ship shuddered as enemy fire connected with its shields. "How much closer do we need to get?" Elaine asked. "Half a mile from their hull," Rodriguez replied over the comm. "No more than that." Elaine made a hard decision. "All power to engines. Abandon the cloak." The Intrepid surged forward, its weapons firing at any Zenith ship in its path. The crew worked with frantic energy, knowing that every second brought them closer to either victory or death. 1 mile to target, Martinez reported. Shields at 30%. Another hit rocked the ship. Warning lights flashed across every console. "Engine damage," someone shouted. "We're losing power." Elaine turned to her navigation officer. "Can we still reach the target?" "Yes, but we won't be able to pull away afterward." Elaine nodded, having already accepted this possibility. "Evacuate the crew. Launch all escape pods." "Commander," Rodriguez's voice came over the comm. "I'm staying. Someone needs to make sure the weapon deploys correctly." "Get out of there, Ethan," she ordered. "With respect, Commander, I'm not leaving. This is too important." Elaine closed her eyes briefly, then opened them with renewed determination. "Everyone else evacuate now. That's an order." As the escape pods launched, carrying most of the crew to safety, Elaine took manual control of the ship. With Rodriguez still in the engine room, They pushed the damaged Intrepid toward its target. "Half a mile," Martinez reported before he too left his station for the last escape pod. "Good luck, Commander." On the Dominion's Fist, Vexthor received reports of the approaching human vessel with growing alarm. "Destroy it," he commanded. "Use all weapons." But the Intrepid, though damaged and burning, stayed its course. In the engine room, Rodriguez activated the weapon, its blue lights pulsing faster. "It's working," he reported. "Impact in 30 seconds." Elaine guided the ship on its final approach. "It's been an honor, Ethan." "Likewise, Commander." At the last moment, Elaine spotted a small maintenance shuttle in the launch bay. "Ethan, there's still a way out." Together, they raced to the shuttle as the Intrepid continued on its automated collision course. They launched with seconds to spare as their ship struck the massive Zenith flagship. The weapon activated on impact. A sphere of blue energy expanded from the point of collision, engulfing the Dominion's Fist and spreading to nearby Zenith vessels. Ships lost power, weapons went offline, and communication systems failed completely. Throughout the solar system, the Zenith fleet fell into disarray. Some ships drifted aimlessly, while others attempted retreat only to find their navigation systems inoperable. From the Victory, Admiral Pearson watched in amazement. "All ships, press the advantage. Target any Zenith vessel still operating." Combined Earth and Conquered fleet surged forward, easily overcoming the now defenseless enemy. Boarding parties captured key Zenith ships, including the Dominion's Fist itself, where Vexithor was taken prisoner. Days later, on Earth, a ceremony marked their victory. Representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered to witness the signing of a new galactic charter. At the center stood Admiral Pearson, now promoted to Fleet Admiral, and beside him Commander Murphy, her new rank of Admiral displayed proudly on her uniform. "Today marks not just the end of Zenith rule," Pearson announced to the assembled crowd, "but the beginning of something new. A galaxy united not by force, but by choice." As the applause died down, Elaine looked out at the faces of so many different species, all united by their shared struggle and victory. "The galaxy no longer trembles in fear," she said quietly to Nina Ortiz, who stood nearby. "Now it trembles with possibility."